Hello, Steve White, Steve Arts 89. It's Halloween. I love Halloween. Every year, I don't watch the Halloween films any time but Halloween. So every year, after midnight on October 30th, I usually start watching the first couple of films. I normally do Halloween, the original, and then 2 and H2O. And the next night, I do Halloween 4, 5, 6, sometimes H2O and that again, 8, and then sometimes the Rob Zombie ones if I actually get around to it. Now, probably the best year ever was when H2O came out. It was 1998. The film was set in 1998, and in Australia they actually screened the film, opened the film on Halloween. So I actually got to watch it on Halloween night, 1998, the same exactly as it was in the film. Because all the films I'd seen years after they were made, and it was just amazing to see it on Halloween night. And then when I heard they were doing a 40th anniversary film and it was going to be released in time for Halloween on that year, I was really excited. Then I heard that they were going to basically abandon all the mythology and lore and just have this film be a direct sequel to the original. And I knew John Carpenter hated that they'd made a sequel to the original, and he didn't like the sister story and all this stuff. So I kind of understood why he was attracted to doing that, why he was involved. And I was a little bit worried, but I thought, just go with it. You've already got the other films. It can't take away from them. It would just be like an alternative timeline. Now you'll have sort of three timelines. You've got the original and H2O, and you've got the new one, and then you've got the original series from like 4 to 8. Because you can kind of watch H2O and just pretend like she had Jamie and then abandoned her, and then that all that still happened. You can kind of watch them. It doesn't really undermine those. So I'm getting ready for it, and I'm excited just to see it on Halloween. And then I find out Jamie Lee Curtis is coming to Australia. So I live in Melbourne, but she was going to Sydney to do the premiere. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to go. I had a friend who'd been inviting me up to Sydney saying I could stay at his place. So I said, I'm just going to go. All I got to do is pay for the airfare. No problem. I'll just go. And I'll see her on the red carpet. I'll get a few pictures. I might get a autograph or get to speak to her or something, depending on how busy it is. It'll be fine. So I plan to do that. And then I find out that some cinemas have roped her into doing an actual Q&A session, and that she's actually going to be doing like a screening, and she's going to talk, and then so it's a premiere and then a screening, and she's going to do a Q&A, and then for about 15, 20 minutes, half an hour, whatever, and then leave. So I'm like, oh my God, I have to get tickets. And then they'd already sold out, like the morning before, like the night before I found out, the next morning they'd sold out. So then I found out another cinema was doing the same thing an hour later. So she was going to be going to one and then going to the other. And those tickets sold out about an hour after I found out about the event as well. And I'm like, no, I can't believe there's a 40th anniversary Halloween film coming out with Jamie Lee Curtis attending and doing a Q&A, and I don't have tickets just because I just didn't hear about it. The people putting out articles and that just weren't quick enough with it. So by the time I found out, it was too late. So I think, okay, God, what do I do? There's a screening of In Bed with Madonna the same night as these Q&As in Melbourne, and I don't want to miss that, so I don't know how long I'm going to stay. So I book my trip up, and I book my hotel and everything, and I book the flight back that'll get me back in time for Truth or Dare. And if I get a ticket to one of these Q&A screenings, I just decide I will abandon my ticket home and then get another ticket to come back home the next night, and I'll stay for the Q&As, because that's more rare than seeing In Bed with Madonna in a cinema, because I was screening that at the Astor, which is a theatre in St Kilda in Melbourne that only shows old films pretty much, and occasionally they'll show something I really love, like In Bed with Madonna, which Truth or Dare for you guys who are in other countries. In Australia we called it In Bed with Madonna, and I think the UK, I don't know, but so I'm ready to go, and I'm thinking, you know what, you know a few people, you should start asking around. And I knew someone in PR, and I asked them, can you get me into this? And they said yes. I'm like, oh my God, yes, I can. This is the premiere, not the Q&A screenings. So I thought, great, I'm not going up for nothing. I can at least do the premiere. If I can't get into the other screenings, I'll come back in time for In Bed with Madonna, and then I'll just enjoy In Bed with Madonna, and I'm having something. So that was the plan. And then I'm waiting for them to confirm and send me the tickets, because they said they'd get me tickets and they could also get me a poster and everything. I'm like, this is awesome. and then didn't hear anything, and then they're like, oh, I was sick, I'm sorry, and I'm like, well, how do I? And they couldn't get them or didn't have them. They said they already had them and I could have one of theirs. They didn't have them, couldn't get them, and they were very sheepish and trying to avoid any questions about why they said they had the tickets and they could give me one, because I might not have made all those plans if I didn't think I was going to the premiere at least. And we're talking, you know, hotels, planes, this is money. And I was a bit upset, but I just had to let it go and move on. And I just went up hoping I would find the premiere, because they didn't even know where the premiere was. No one did. No one was talking, no one in any of the cinemas. I assumed it was Event Cinemas because that's where they did the Star Trek Into Darkness premiere, which I went to and walked the red carpet there and did all that. So that seemed to be where they do it, and I'd heard of a few other events being there. And so I go up, I get there, I walk past Event Cinemas on George Street, and sure enough, there they are building the facade of the Myers house down the thing. So I'm like, yes, I know where the premiere is. I at least can find the premiere, or at least see her, even if she just walks past quickly. At least I can say I went to the premiere, I saw Jamie Lee Curtis. I did something. I didn't come to Sydney for nothing. Now, while I was there that day, I went over while I was waiting, because the premiere wasn't until the evening, and I got there in the morning because I needed time to find it. And fortunately, the first place I looked, I found it. I went to one of the cinemas, one of the cinemas that was actually running one of the Q&As, to see if there's any way I could get in. And they were really nice. They showed me around the cinema. They gave me a little tour of it because it's a historical one. And then I just happened to just catch one of the managers preparing the staff for Jamie Lee's impending arrival. And the drama. I was just standing quietly off to the side listening to it all, and I won't go through all the details, but they're going through all the things because they had a specific amount of time. She was giving them this amount of time. She was in at this time. She was out at that time. The lady's like, we've got 5 minutes to do this, to coordinate this, to get her in and all this stuff. And I'm like, wow, she's just running them ragged and running them scared, like with all the demands and everything. And it was really, I hadn't really seen anyone sort of make people run in circles like that. And at the end of all of it, she turns to staff and says, remember, she's a star. Like, my God, we have to treat her like a star or we are in trouble. It was really, wow. So, I go back into the city, and I'm very fortunate that someone actually offers me a ticket for one of the screenings, the one at the theatre that I'd just been to, actually, fortunately, because I already knew where that was and it was easy to get to. The other one, I could never find it. So I'm really excited because now I didn't come for nothing. I'm a little bit upset that I have to cancel going to see In Bed with Madonna, because everyone I know is going to see In Bed with Madonna. A lot of those people haven't even seen it on the big screen because, you know, didn't get a huge screening. It got a cinematic thing in Australia, but it wasn't big. It hasn't been shown a lot. So I didn't want to miss that, but, you know, Jamie Lee Curtis live in person Q&A, premiere of a new Halloween film, you know, obviously I'm going to go. So I've got all that sorted, and then I go to the premiere, and I get there early. I go about 2 hours early or something, and I'm waiting around, and all the security and people are like putting stuff together, and they're aware of me hovering around, and they're kind of nice, they're fine, you know. I wait around, all the autograph hounds slowly appear because news got out that where it was going to be and that it was actually happening, because they managed to keep it pretty secret. So there wasn't a huge crowd or anything, which is a little disappointing. You think obviously they want to get people there. So I'm waiting, and I put myself right near the press corps, on the edge of that, because I thought if she just walks past and ignores the crowd, at least I'll catch her and get photos of her when she's standing there talking to the press, and I can listen to her being interviewed and stuff. So I'm waiting, and then a lady comes over to me and she says, do you want to go wait over there? And I'm like, why? And what there was a small little bunch of press near the start of the red carpet, and she was going to be in front of them. They didn't want space behind them. They wanted people there, number one, and two, they figured that was my best chance of getting an autograph or something, because she would walk across to those people in front of the cameras and do the, you know, the star signing autograph thing. So, and they picked me first because I was the first one there, and I'd been really nice and polite, and they thought, okay, we'll let this guy have the best, you know, seat, I think. And I didn't do it because I thought, you know what, I'll there's a good chance she will just talk to the press and walk straight on, and I'll just be looking at her back the whole time. And then by the time I can get around back to the other side, because it's on the other side of the red carpet, at the other end of the red carpet, I'll probably miss the spot I've got now, and I have got a good spot now. I'm at least going to see her, hear her, whatever. And there's just as much chance of her speaking to me there as here, because yeah. So I decided to stay. I waited, and I met this really cute guy who was like waiting. And I was asking him these questions about like, oh, because we were standing around waiting for like hours. About Halloween, he didn't seem to know anything much. I thought, oh, he's just a Jamie Lee fan. He's just there because some of the people are there because of other films she's done, True Lies, some of the early '80s stuff where she was the body, and you know, these straight guys who are like, you know. So we wait, and eventually she comes, spot on. I think 6:15 she was supposed to arrive. She got there at 6:14 and 30 seconds, I think, by my watch, and she spent a minute or so talking to the main. The first lot of media people. And then she went across to, and there's this nice guy they picked who went over there and took my space. And she went over and she did, I think that there was about 6 people there in the end, and I think she did 2 autographs and maybe posed for a second for a photo. And then she went to the next area, walked straight past my section and went to the media. And a lot of people on the other side basically booed and were like, what? And she turned around and she went, one moment, and then talked for a minute. And then she went over to that side, posed for a second, signed a couple of autographs, came back, walked past us again, and then we all were booing and like, ah. And she's like, she gives us the one moment, and she said it right at me because I was like right next. She's like, the press is like there, and she's like there, and I'm like here. So she's like, one moment in my face. I'm like, okay. It's a bit, okay. So then she comes over, she stands, poses for a second, and then walks back over. And I'm like, she didn't sign anything, no autographs, didn't speak to anyone, just posed for a moment. And of course, my camera froze. I didn't get a picture of her posing in front of us. And then she goes back over, and we sort of boo a little bit because she did the one moment thing again, as in, because she did that little stop, on the way back from that side. So she did autographs for that side, and then she came over, paused for a moment in front of us, and then went back to the press. We booed. She gave us the one moment, and then we waited, and she never came back. She just moved down to the next reporter, and eventually went down the line of reporters, and we realized she's not coming back. So we're all a little pissed, and I just thought, well, I'm just going to follow the line down, and I did get a bunch of pictures of her, and I sort of could hear her being interviewed, and I got pictures sort of on either side of the reporters' heads and stuff, and they look pretty good. And she did speak at me. She didn't speak to me, but she spoke at me. So I had some contact with her. But I would have liked to have said hello. Would have liked to have got an autograph or maybe a photograph while she was posing in front of me. But that was my camera's fault, not hers, I guess. But she was just really, just her energy was not very nice. It was just sort of like, she was in and out in 15 minutes. She gave them 15 minutes. That's all they got. She was there at 15:15 and she was gone at 15:30, and she didn't give them a second more. Just like with all the other things, they were down to the minute, and everybody knew it. And they were happy she got there on time, but really she should have gotten there at 6 and given the crowd half an hour and actually taken the time to walk around and just give everyone a little hey, and sign a few more autographs and that. That's what she should have done. I mean, 15 minutes, that's the difference it would have taken between getting around everyone. So I wasn't really happy with that. And then the funny thing happened after that was I was talking to this cute guy I was talking to me the whole time, who seemed to be a bit of a fan but didn't really know much about her. He was like, oh, I'm going to go upstairs. I'm like, how are you going upstairs? Like, there's no way to blah, blah, blah. And then he turns around and says, I'm an undercover policeman. I was here to watch the crowd and protect her and that. And I'm like, oh, so that's why you didn't know anything about Halloween. I just thought you were straight and watched her, like, her old movies that, like, where she was the body and she was, like, half naked all the time. Like, oh, okay. He was really nice, though, and he left, and the other people came over to me and said, did you get a good shot? We, like, the security people, they said, we tried to give you, like, a good spot. And I'm like, I know, I just wasn't sure if she'd stopped there, and I had a good spot here, and I didn't want to give it up, and I could have gotten across and back, because, see, with the Into Darkness premiere, they had a big, long walkway, and it would have taken forever to get around. But with Halloween, they just had the walkway going to the end of the street, not down the street and around the corner like the other one. So I could have gotten over and across in a minute. It wouldn't have really. I could have gotten back to the spot I was at. I probably should have done it. I regret not doing it. She would have at least paused in front of me. She might have signed an autograph. She probably just would have signed the person next to me or whatever. Because I don't think she signed the person who took my place. So afterwards, I felt a little bit stupid because I probably should have taken that spot that was offered to me, but I got to see her. I got some good photos, and I still had the Q&A coming up. I might have got to speak to her at that point. And I realized, okay, well, you're definitely going to miss Madonna. So I sort of prepared for that, and I realized I was just going to leave this airfare and just not catch the flight and just waste that money, which I'd never done before. So I waited. I went there the next day. I got there fairly early, or I thought I got there fairly early, but there were fans already there lined up, and they were more rabid than the ones who were at the premiere because there wasn't many people there, hours before. And I got in a big long line behind some people, and I like to sit in the front of the cinema. And obviously, if you're going to be seeing something like this, where the star is going to be there, you want to be up close. So I assume other people would. And I remember when I went to Star Trek Into Darkness, my friend who went with me, he went straight up the back with the people he knew. And I'm like, why on earth did you do that? I went and sat down the front. And then JJ and the main cast, Kirk, Spock and McCoy, came out, and they were talking to me and the people in the front row for half the time, and then asking us to keep the secret about Khan and everything. And he texts me from up the back of the cinema, I'm so jealous. I'm like, well, why did you go up there? So I thought, I'm not going to get a good seat because there's so many people in this big long line, and we're waiting for hours. And I was talking to all these people, and they're mostly girls into horror, and they're really cool, and we're just talking about stuff, and they're mostly nice, mostly friendly. We're all sort of in the same boat. We all loved the films and that. And then, but like I said, as soon as the doors open, I'm going for that front row. So, and fortunately, most people don't like the front row. So the very front section was filled up with people who obviously wanted to get close to Jamie Lee and didn't care about their position for the film. And then I got on the side of the aisle, because there was it was a round cinema, had a round stage, and there was like different sections and aisles, and I was on the aisle side, on the side of the center, which is not too bad. So I was just off to the side. So we waited, and Jamie Lee came out. Angela Bishop introduced her. She's a local Australian news person, entertainment reporter, and she was good. She had energy. She was on time. She was there for maybe 20 minutes. She talked. She answered questions. She mostly talked. I think they only had, actually no, I think, God, if I remember correctly, there's only one or two actual questions. It was pretty much all Angela Bishop asking her questions. I can't actually remember if anyone from the audience actually got to ask a question. If there was, it was just like at the end. It wasn't like a Q&A session where people would get to speak to her, which is what we were expecting. So we weren't very happy about that. And then it was interesting. She talked about a lot of things. She really sold the film. She really talked it up. She really made it sound like a great feminist movie, and empowering for women, and a great horror movie and everything, and all the reasons she came back to it. Because I know she'd wanted to do a film with John Carpenter and go back and revisit the films, but she couldn't get John back. That's what she'd hoped would happen with H2O, and it didn't go the way she wanted. So this was a bit of a dream project, and I know she liked the director and how he worked. She felt he worked a lot like John Carpenter. So apparently it was a really smooth sailing. Sounded good. She left really quickly. I think she took her shoes off and left. She was straight up and out the other side pretty quickly. And she was all about the whole time in, out. Very efficient, very officious. And it was interesting. But I kind of wanted more. Like I said, I think she gave us less than 20 minutes. But she did have to get to the other show. I remember thinking, God, the other show is only an hour later. Does that mean she's going to be rushing to get across town to the other show? Because I had also been offered a ticket for that show, and I was trying to work out, could I do both? Could I get from her talk to the second talk and then watch the film there? And I realised, especially dealing with public transport mostly as I was, unless I was going to pay for a taxi across town, the chances of me getting there and getting in and seeing her was just too much risk. So I decided to stay where I was and just do the one. So, and that cinema was beautiful, and the people there were nice, so I stayed. The film opened, started up, and I knew I wasn't going to watch the whole film because I wanted to watch it on Halloween night, and this was like the week before. So I realized you can't stay for the film, you're going to have to leave. So I thought, well, I'll watch the first half of the film and they'll leave, and then watch the film again, and I'll save the second half, which I'll be seeing for the first time, for the actual Halloween night. So, and also in my hometown in Melbourne, they were actually showing, several places were showing the original Halloween the same night. So I was seeing the original Halloween at like 7, and then fortunately in the same actual cinema, large cinema, Cineplex, they actually showed the film at 9 o'clock, so I was able to basically walk between and just have 15 minutes between them. So that worked out pretty well. And also the Astor, the theatre that was showing in Bev Madonna that I missed, was actually screening all 8 Halloween films in a Halloween marathon overnight the next week on the 28th. So I was planning to see it all again then as well, which was awesome. Except the girl next to me was talking to her partner the whole time. Fortunately, she left before the marathon finished, so half the marathon I didn't have anyone talking, the other half I did. But they were friendly the whole time as well, and there is a camaraderie with some of these events and waiting in lines and doing marathons and stuff together, which is kind of nice. So I left just after the first sort of set of killings, and they're going off to hide from Michael and be safe. I thought this is a good point to leave, and I thought, I can't believe I'm getting up and walking out, and people were staring at me like, he's leaving? This guy's leaving? I stood at the back, took a couple of photos of the theatre with all the people in it and the screen, and then I went. And I walked out of this empty, quiet theatre that was full, and I'm like, I can't believe I'm walking out on a Halloween film. I've never walked out of once I walked out on a film. I walked out of Beauty and the Beast because I only went because I was going to see Kong, Skull Island, and it was too late. So I thought, I'll give Beauty and the Beast a chance, and if it sucks, I'll just walk over to where I knew Kong was. So that's exactly what I did. After about 45 minutes, I thought, I just singing teapots, I can't do it. I left and I went and watched Kong instead, and I considered I paid for one movie. I saw one whole movie. I didn't feel bad, but so I left and I felt so weird leaving. And then the next day I just went back to Melbourne, and I was a little disappointed I didn't get an autograph and didn't get to speak to her directly, like, she just spoke to me. But I was excited about watching all 8 films in the Astor, because I'd never seen all 8 Halloween films in the cinema. I'd only seen a couple of them, so that's awesome. I might do a separate video about that, but I'm going to do a little review of the film, which I watched again last night, because I watched the original and the new sequel last night. And feel free to like, subscribe, and comment. Comments are good. Tell me what you do for Halloween. I mean, I'm curious what other fans do, but I'm going to leave it there. Thanks. Bye.